Welcome to Break for Art. My name is Jessie Carrillo, Manager of Adult Programs at the Dallas Museum of Art. Today we are going to spend some time with Ida O'Keeffe's Stargazing in Texas from 1938. We will begin with 1 full minute of looking. During this time, try to set aside thoughts that pop up and allow your mind to focus on exploring this image. After we look, I'll turn your attention to a few points of interest in the painting. Now that you've had some time to look, consider what stood out to you. What questions do you have about this work of art? Does this painting remind you of anything you've seen before or an experience you've had? How did looking at this painting make you feel? We are looking at a nighttime scene of Texas farmland with 3 figures, a building, and some animals. This is a work of art by Ida O'Keeffe, the sister of artist Georgia O'Keeffe, and an artist who has largely been overlooked by history. She made this painting after moving to San Antonio to teach art. This was a fairly common part of Ida's practice. She would move to a new place for a teaching opportunity and then paint the landscape of her new home. Let's look at the composition of this painting, or how the artist has arranged the scene. Notice how we seem to be looking at this landscape from an elevated perspective of this hill that these figures are on. The land recedes back toward a high horizon line. But because we're elevated, we also get a bird's eye view of this landscape. The high horizon line means that the artist has dedicated the majority of her canvas to the land rather than to the sky. I want to show you 2 other strong lines that she has built into this scene. One is a road running from this barn on the left off to the right, and a second is defined by the grid lines of these fenced-in fields headed back into the distance. All of these elements, the high horizon line, the elevated perspective, and these 2 leading lines, give the sense that this landscape is vast and continues on forever outside the boundaries of the frame. In the case of this painting, the frame is also part of the composition. Notice that in the painting itself, we only see a little bit of sky. It's covered in dark clouds with deep blue tones peeking through. But O'Keeffe has put this painting in a black frame, dotted with cutout tin stars alternating with stick-on foil stars. So without even having to paint it, she's implying that the night sky, like the land, is incredibly vast. Knowing that Ida was a new resident of Texas when she painted this, what do you think this painting says about her impressions of her new home? Let's take a look at how O'Keeffe uses light, shadow, and color in this painting. Something I find really captivating in this work is the glow of moonlight that washes over the entire scene. Notice how things in the foreground, or the area closest to us, are the brightest, and the land way in the distance recedes into shadow. She's giving us a sense of where the light source is in this landscape. The same year that O'Keeffe made this painting, she made another painting in Missouri, a landscape with a large white building awash in this same moonlight with a similar color palette. That tells me that there's something about moonlight that really captivated her at the time. Look at how she paints in flat planes of color. You see it most clearly in this barn on the left side of the canvas. It's made up of monochromatic rectangles with little variation in color and almost no detail. Even this central figure, while more detailed than everything around her, she's simply painted and in a single color. It's as though we're only getting a vague impression of the objects in this landscape based on what's revealed by the moonlight, making them somehow seem less solid or less real. How would you describe the colors in this painting? Are they warm, cool, vibrant, muted? O'Keeffe is working with a pretty limited range of colors here, but by changing how light and dark those colors are, she's able to cast the entire scene in varying levels of light and shadow that mimics the way moonlight illuminates a landscape through intermittent clouds. Here are the few of the most prominent colors in this painting. Starting with this hill that the woman is standing on, move your focus around the painting clockwise and find each of these colors throughout the entire painting. Let's start with this pale blue. It's used in its lightest form on the woman herself in the center, and it's repeated on the horses that are looking in her direction. It appears again in darker tones on the fields and into the sky to capture that specific quality of light that you only see on a moonlit, cloudy night. In contrast, O'Keeffe uses this deep blue-green for areas of the landscape that are not entirely cast into darkness, but are just illuminated enough to reflect the colors of the crops. And finally, she uses this sandy color on the hill and in the barnyard to lend some warmth to the scene. Notice how the stars on the frame echo the warmer tones of this sand color. In the label for this painting, art curator Sue Canterbury notes that the alternating warm and cool tones of the tin and foil stars seem to mimic the twinkling of actual stars in the night sky. By repeating these three colors and more, O'Keeffe is drawing our eye back toward that distant horizon, again reinforcing this vastness of this landscape. Remember back to the emotional reaction that you had as you looked at this painting for a full minute. How do you think light, shadow, and color contributed to your reaction? When you were initially looking at this painting, were you drawn to this central figure? The artist has made her a focal point not only by centering her right in the middle of the painting, but by enlarging her body to inhabit almost the full height of the canvas. Let's take a look at her in a little bit more detail. Notice how O'Keeffe has stretched the proportions of this woman's body. See her long upper arms and her long neck. These proportions, combined with her height and this kind of stretched up pose, draw our eye up from her large, solid feet up to the sky that she is so captivated by. Her head literally is right in the center of that horizon line that we saw earlier. So if we follow the line of her body, we end at the sky. Her eyes appear to be open, and she's supporting her head with her hands as if she has the intention of looking up at the night sky for a long time. O'Keeffe has created kind of an interesting push and pull here. The woman is simultaneously held to the land. Notice she's the only person in the scene who is barefoot and physically connected to the landscape, but she's also drawn up to the stars. Let's shift our focus to the figures to her left. Something seems to be going on with them, but the woman doesn't seem to notice. The artist has given these figures much less detail than the woman, but they are nevertheless important. Their presence underscores that this woman is caught up in some kind of moment. Has that ever happened to you? You're not alone, but you get so caught up in something that everything and everyone around you seems to fade away. She seems to be so consumed by something bigger than herself, the vastness of the night sky, which is ironic because she is surrounded by another kind of vastness. On the back of this canvas, the artist wrote her name and the title Spring Lethargy in Texas. Additional research unearthed the title that we now use, Stargazing in Texas. If we think about the title as a description for the painting, how does this shift from stargazing to spring lethargy change what's going on in this scene? Which title do you think is the best fit for what you see? Thank you for taking a longer look at Ida O'Keeffe's Stargazing in Texas with me. Next time you step outside and gaze up at the Texas sky, I hope you'll think back on this painting. We look forward to seeing you soon at the DMA.